everyone. I'm Elena Armijo, and I'm the founder of the C-Suite Collective. This is a company I created for executive leadership coaching and wellness that supports C-suite executives, entrepreneurs, and founders. Now, more than ever, businesses are running faster and with fewer resources. Burnout, overwhelm, disconnection, and disillusionment are the new norm for teams struggling with an old paradigm. At the C-Suite Collective, we believe deeply that providing massive support for your teams through executive coaching and holistic practices will create an inclusive culture, higher levels of performance, sustainable change, and the organizational impact you desire. You can find us at the c-suitecollective.com. What does giving yourself permission look like in today's world? We'll explore that in our coaching tip for the week. Today, we have Michelle Mercier, a business coach and consultant, a Dare to Lead trained professional, and the host of the top-ranked podcast, The Resilient Entrepreneur. She is so sought after as a speaker, and she has 20-plus years of corporate and professional experience. Michelle's worked with a wide range of different businesses, from nationally acclaimed nonprofits to enterprise-level corporations like PayPal. She's a gem, so much light, so much wisdom, and so much grace. We hope you enjoy the episode today, and remember, something powerful resides within you. I'm here to support you in seeing it and creating it. So what does giving yourself permission look like in today's world? Amidst everything that's going on, the last 2 years of the pandemic, the war in Ukraine, our own personal struggles from day-to-day life in business, health, relationships, the thing I'd like you to consider is what would change if you gave yourself permission to simply get what you need in the moment. Sometimes that looks like a walk outside. Sometimes that looks like canceling a meeting. Sometimes that looks like going to the store and buying yourself flowers. That's what I needed the other day. But the opportunity is to give yourself permission where you normally haven't given yourself permission before. Stop and say, what do I need? And am I willing to allow myself to go get it? Hey, Michelle, thanks so much for being with us today. I'm so excited to have you here. It's such an honor.
Yeah, well, thank you. I've been looking forward to this conversation all week. It's a good way to start my day.
Yeah, same. I want to share a little bit about how we met.
Yeah.
And then just hear a little bit about your perspective of it. I know my team called you and reached out to your amazing podcast, which we will link for everybody to find and go listen to you. And I was a guest on your show. And I remember, I think I've done like 37 guest spots at this point in the last 6 months. And I remember thinking how incredibly open and warm and authentic and genuine and real you were. And so I just knew I had to have you on ours. So welcome.
Well, thank you. I feel like I'm doing my job then, because that would be pretty crappy if I was like, let's be the resilient entrepreneurs and be open. And then I'm like, not so much. Like,
right?
It's good.
I know. So mission accomplished.
Yay, I'm on brand. Yeah. No, I mean, and in all honesty, like I think I learned a long time ago that it's exhausting being like multiple people. Like, here's my podcast persona. Here's the offline persona. Like I'm tired, and I don't know. Maybe that's laziness. I don't know. But authenticity, we'll call it. Because I just want to be the same person on both sides of the mic. Yeah.
Well, and that's my experience of you for sure. So I'm excited to have you here, and I want to know, how did you become a coach? What's your story?
Yeah.
How'd you get here?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I've always operated in the personal development space. Like, I think I was not your average like teenager, because I was reading like Louise Hay at like age 17. Like, I was just always really curious. I had inspirational quotes everywhere, just that person when I was a teenager. And I think it really helped me get through a lot of adversity that I experienced early on. Mm-hmm. And a lot of tough times. So I think I was kind of always destined to be a coach. I think there's a couple of my friends that will say that. But, I started my college journey, and I came out, and we've talked about this too, as a theater and music major. So, I wanted to sing on Broadway. I wanted to kind of do all that stuff. And I did some really amazing things with that. But then part of me is also extremely business minded. So I actually went and got my master's in what's called arts administration, or a master's in running nonprofits in the arts world. So I could understand, it's almost like an MBA, but for that world. So I
Hmm.
understood the financials, the arts, the business of it and stuff, which was so fascinating to me because I got to marry both sides of my brain almost and,
Hmm.
put my passions together. And then,
Hmm.
I'm also a type of person who gets bored. So I jump to a new thing because I always want to be learning. So I jumped into the corporate space for about a decade and I ended up running, tech teams for PayPal. So I ran the operational side of things for the PayPal Europe email marketing team for quite a while. And I did product development and agency work. And, I learned a ton from there, especially around operations and process and technology, which, marrying that with my leadership and my business acumen is just such a perfect marriage of skills. And then, my business unit got bought and, sold off. So, and at the time I had just had my second son and my first one was medically complex and had a lot of challenges there. So, the first one I remember I was running the PayPal EU team and there was a Saturday morning where he kind of climbed down from the dining room table after eating like scrambled eggs and it's one of those moments that are just kind of seared into my brain. And he walked over to me and he said, "Mama, up." And I was like, okay, it's a typical little kid thing. If you don't know that, that's what they
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
But when I picked him up, it's like he had kind of a it was in the front of his head that he needed the support because he seized in my arms. So, and I
Oh, oh
and I
my
always say
goodness.
like that started like one of kind of our resilience marathon as a family.
Mm.
So
Hmm.
he was aspirating thin liquids into his lungs. He was, had issues GI wise where his food wasn't moving through his body correctly. He had,
Hmm.
the seizure stuff, so much stuff. And
Hmm.
then all the while I'm running, really high pressure teams with visibility to the eBay board.
Yeah.
And then my second one was born. And when I got laid off, I had the choice. I had the choice if I wanted to kind of turn around and step back into that 24/7 high pressure role. But I think I didn't really know who I was at that point. Like, I mean, again, I came from like a theater
Hmm.
background. Like, I'm a creative person who kind of loves to lean into personal development and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and then suddenly I was like, running tech teams. And I remember my husband being like, "Yeah, I never really thought that this would be a thing." And I was like, "Well, that would have been good to know
Hmm.
10 years ago, honey." But, you know, so I decided kind of in that moment that to kind of find myself again, as maybe cheesy as that may sound to some, but I really didn't recognize myself. And unbeknownst to me, when I did get laid off, we had just gotten my second one medically stable to my second son. So he came out like, "You thought the first one was rough. You haven't seen anything yet." So he came
Wow.
out and was like, heart issues and
Hmm.
swallowing, breathing issues, compromised immune system, just
Hmm.
nonstop challenges. So then I was faced with, two of them that
Yeah.
had competing priorities, competing doctors, and we still do to this day. 6 years later, we're still doing that dance. But I was able to turn around and say, okay, well, if I'm not going to jump into corporate again, and I couldn't have, to be honest, in that first year of my son's life, I would have been on disability easily or FMLA
Hmm.
with all the
Hmm.
appointments. But I decided to build my business instead. So that kind of brought me to coaching because I had such an immense amount of knowledge, especially around, with the corporate stuff, personal development, entrepreneurship, business. Like I just had a lot of things in my collective toolbox that it was kind of a natural step at that point.
Hmm.
But I wasn't sure what kind of coach or what I wanted to do. So I just went on kind of a passion journey where I did everything from hosting documentaries on body image to I ran a
Wow.
gratitude project locally in our town where people, we had hundreds of submissions of gratitude. I wanted to figure out who Michelle was. I mean, Michelle now with two children, Michelle without a corporate career, who I was in this version. So,
Hmm.
and fast forward 6 years, I'm still doing similar work and I'm working more one on one with people in coaching through, adversity, through lots of different things. All of us coaches have had challenging times, I would say, in the
Oh my
last couple of
goodness.
years, walking beside people through a pandemic. And now the podcast, and I do a lot of speaking, so it's kind of the best of all my worlds at this point.
What a beautiful story. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing so openly and vulnerably about
Yeah.
not only the struggles and the resilience that I hear, but also finding I really hear that you didn't give up on your dream too. Like
Yeah.
or maybe it wasn't your dream, but it was sort of like this you knew you were really good at it and you followed that intuition, which is
Yeah.
a huge thing as well. So thanks for
Yeah.
sharing it.
Yeah. I think I've always been a lot more focused on the person that I want to be and the quality of my life that I want to live. And I
Mm,
recognize that there's a level of privilege with that too, right? Like
yeah.
that comes with that, but I don't know. I think I've never been really focused on here's my career versus here's my entirety of my life. And maybe that is the coach in me, right? Like
Yeah.
let's plan like what the whole big picture or your ideal state of life looks like. So that's kind of always been, you know, my focus on things.
Yeah, the experience. I love that. I talk
Yeah.
about that a lot with my clients is what is the experience you want to create as opposed
Yes.
to all the
Yes.
doing, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. What emotions do you want to evoke as you walk through this messy thing called life, right? Like how do
Hmm.
you want to feel as you step through it all? Because it is messy, right? So let's control some
Hmm.
of it the way that we can.
Yeah. Well, and that's
Let's try.
thank you for mentioning the past 2 years, the pandemic. I mean, I don't know where we're at in it, if we're coming out of it or not. Who knows? And then
Yeah.
also now we've got, the war in Ukraine that has started
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
this past week. So on the topic of resilience, what are you doing to take care of yourself as a healer in the world and somebody who helps others? What are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would be lying if I said it's not hard right now,
Yeah.
right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, there are days when I'm like, it feels like Groundhog Day. I want to climb out of my skin because I'm so just like, oh, another day of the same exact things again and,
Mhm.
uncertainty and stuff like that. But, what helps me is to number one, focus on kind of what I can control. And, I'm actively also working on respecting my own emotions
Mhm.
and not going down a rabbit hole. So I deal with mental illness, I deal with anxiety and a lot of other stuff. So for me, it's always this constant like, well, is this depression? Is this COVID?
Mhm.
Is this adversity? I don't really know.
Mhm.
So it's really speaking in facts. I tell clients that
Mhm.
a lot too. Like, is it true? Speak in facts. Like, really look at it from an outsider's perspective, not just from the emotion,
Mhm.
so that you can stay present in it and not kind of spiral down the anxiety spiral. So I think with that, and I think especially within the last week or so with the Ukraine stuff, I've been doing my best to put some boundaries around things like social media, what I'm
Mhm.
consuming, because, I just actually did a video of it yesterday. Like I'm doom scrolling at like midnight, right? On Twitter, reading all
Yep.
the things and like, oh my God, the world is blowing up. Like that's the time that I actually kind of want to be like, Michelle, put some boundaries on 10 minutes tops at a time, 3 times a day. So anywhere I can put kind of concrete bumpers on is always a good thing for me in times of adversity too.
That's beautiful. Two solid coaching tips there: boundaries and respecting your feelings, flowing
Yeah,
through
right?
them. Yeah. Well, and I noticed one of the conversations I was having with my own coach this week, which I shared a little bit about
Yeah. Yeah.
earlier, is this way that we sort of bypass our humanity when we are not in a place where we can respect that each day is different and you
Yeah.
might need something each day that's different,
Yeah.
so giving yourself permission and allowing that, hey, maybe today I need to cancel all my meetings or,
Yeah, and I've
as a
done that.
boundary.
We've all done
Hmm.
that. We all should
Hmm.
do that on some levels, right?
Yeah. Instead of the whole like, no, I can't let people down or, the people pleasing stuff that,
Yeah.
it's a limiting belief too that comes up that, that's something that I've been struggling with as well this week. So thanks for
Yeah.
sharing what you're working with
Yeah, of
because it
course.
gives me ideas of where to look for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I was just listening to earlier, I was listening to Dare to Lead, the podcast, right? And I was listening to
Hmm.
her interview with Amy Cuddy. around kind of the different phases that people go through with like, and the fact that we're kind of tapped out. So that's why you're seeing so many people trying to reinvent and leaping for things and like giving up their jobs and all of this reinvention. And we all kind of need to respect the fact that we are still in it. We're in it. And it's been a long time. And our nervous systems aren't wired to do adversity for nonstop and uncertainty like this. So
Mm-hmm.
we have to really respect that. I mean, I'm saying this because I need to hear it as well, not just for
All of
for
us.
your
Yeah.
listeners. Saying it for
Yeah.
myself too. But it's equal opportunity respect around here.
Yeah. Well, and I love what you said about the adversity and the respect while you're going through it. But for me, everything has been about reinvention the last 2 years, right? Like not just
Yeah.
for me personally, but
Yeah.
for my clients, for the world. We're seeing it
Yeah.
in real time right now.
Yeah.
And what I'm wondering is I think there was a point midway through the pandemic, like at the end of 2020, really, that people were starting to talk about grief. And I don't even know if we're like, I keep wondering, I keep asking myself, is there a point where this will officially be over, whatever that actually
Right.
means, and the
Right.
grief will really rise to the surface for people? Because I think we've been dealing with it as it comes up, but there hasn't really been an end per se to anything, which is maybe the point
Yeah. Yeah.
of life.
Yeah.
But how do you anticipate that looking for you or your clients?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a really good question. I mean, I think collectively as a society, we're going to grieve for years and years to come, regardless of when the quote unquote like end point is. I think
Mm-hmm.
it runs so deep. All of this stuff runs so deep and multi-generational. There's going to be little things, like my son who's now 6, they just took their masks off in schools. We put them on when he was how old? Like, so
Mm-hmm.
things like facial like recognition type stuff or
Mm-hmm.
recognizing emotions on people's faces. Like there's so much stuff that's delayed and so many points that kind of are triggers for grief that
Yeah.
I don't know if it's ever going to kind of go away, I
Yeah.
guess. You hear that a lot, right? When someone
Yeah.
loses someone really close to them, that it doesn't go away. It may dampen a little bit and maybe the good parts outweigh the grief-stricken moments, but I don't know. I can't really say like, "Oh, I'm going to get over this." Like it's a
Yeah,
pretty
it's a
massive
great
thing, right?
point. It's a great point because with my girlfriends especially, we've been talking about like what if this is just we're forever changed by this and this is something we're
Yes.
talking about
Yes.
when we're 80
Yeah.
years old with our
Yeah.
grandchildren.
I go more with that. I vote for that.
Yeah, and for me, it just allows some more space and tenderness and grace, like instead
Yeah.
of always trying to get somewhere or get back
Yeah.
to what was, which I think a lot of people are putting that down finally, but then it becomes a true conversation of, okay, if this is me now with
Yeah.
grief, with pain, with all the things that we've experienced the past 2 years, then what? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. That's a heavy question that people aren't necessarily going to want to tackle, right? I think a lot of us sometimes we don't want to deal with the kind of non-optimal emotions, right? We don't
Hmm.
want to deal with the ones that hurt, right? Or
Hmm.
that are tender. So, I think what scares me is the level of numbing that could
Hmm.
quite possibly come off of this too, right? For those of us who are kind of you and I who are in this emotional sphere, right? We have our numbing things too, right? We're all human on
Hmm.
that level, but we live in it, right? So we're talking about this
Hmm.
stuff all the time, but it worries me that kind of the non-coach person or
Yeah.
whoever's not in our sphere, that it's going to come back and haunt them 10, 20 years from now because it's unprocessed or it's not
Hmm.
worked through or whatever that looks like.
Hmm. And what are your ways that you're numbing right now, just to normalize it? Because
Yeah.
we're coaches and
Oh
we're
God. Yeah.
transformed people, but also we're humans and we
Yeah.
don't
Of
get
course. Of
a
course.
pass.
I like to work. So
Yep. Yep. That's my number
that
one
is
numbing
one of my
mechanism.
go-tos, right? And when it's not that, like I'm a food go-to person.
Hmm.
Like, or, it's really weird. Lately, I've been finding myself like wanting to numb out my brain. So like I've never really been a huge binger when it comes to TV. But
Hmm.
lately I'm sitting down after the kids go to bed and I'm watching like I'm binging Netflix and stuff. And that's not a thing that's normally me, but I think it's my brain just needs to shut off. But I need to be very careful with that, to our earlier points about like using it appropriately. Like I've said in the past when I've given some talks about, there's an appropriate level of escapism, right? And there's things that you can use. Like I'm a big fan of, like, I go to the movies if I'm overwhelmed. I go to a movie by myself and I need to shut my brain off and, be inspired by something that's not in my direct in my house, really, because I don't leave my house, right? So, I think it's slowing down long enough though to know, okay, why am I doing this thing? Is it healthy for me to be doing this thing? And if the answer is even kind of an inkling of like, not so much, then maybe I want to reevaluate and ask some deeper questions. But if you don't slow down long enough, or at least come out of it long enough to ask the questions, it's hard to break that cycle. Because it's easier to reach for the food or to reach for Netflix than it is to actually be like, I'm sad. Let's deal with that. Because that doesn't sound sexy at all, right?
Right. And not fun and not, and
No.
you hit on it. It's not sexy work. So if it's not sexy, what is the enticement to do it? And that's a
Right.
conversation, that we have all the time with our clients in terms of,
Yeah.
well, what is it actually costing you?
Yes. Yes. It's very like, I was just listening to, oh my goodness, what is his name that wrote Atomic Habits, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
and he
Adam
talks,
Grant. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he talks a lot about, exactly what you just said. Like, it's what's the cost? It's not about, it's the be first. It's that be part, not, be, do, have. Like where we go to like the do and have, we skip the be part. Like, what kind of person do you want to be 6 months from now? And are you supporting that person now in your actions? For me, Netflixing for 4 hours at night is probably not supporting the person that I want to be 6 months from now or a year from now. And I think there is also a fine line when running an exercise like that and not putting an added amount of pressure on yourself too. There has to be just that right amount of pressure where you're inspired and pressured to do it, but not like this crushing, like, oh my God, I suck. I'm sabotaging my 6 months from now self, whatever that may
Exactly.
look like. Because I am guilty of both. Um, but there has to be kind of this almost existential question of like, who do I want to be in this world?
Well, and that's a great segue to leaders because a lot
Yeah.
of the things
Yeah.
we talk about on this podcast are leadership in the world and who are people that are disrupting the world and what are they doing
Yeah.
in their spheres. And what do you think that says about leadership right now?
Yeah. You and I are big Brene fans, right? Like, I think if you
Extreme
are
Renee
not
fans.
leading, yeah, I think if you are
Yep.
not leading with empathy right now, and it's funny because it's March, and I know Q1 is review time, right, for a lot of companies, and I'm sure that there are a lot of companies and a lot of leaders who are hurting, who are trying to approach with empathy but losing empathy for themselves. So it takes a special kind of person to be able to lead through adversity and not just manage through adversity. I think those are two very different things, as you and I both know. Like, you can manage people, but that's very different than leading, friends. And being able to inspire, especially in times of adversity, and making sure that as a leader, you are, you are putting your oxygen mask on first. You are whatever that kind of cliche that goes with that, so that you can show up with empathy, because it's a strong line to hold as a leader. And it's a hard one to hold sometimes too. So I think replenishing yourself is a must right now.
Well, and what do you say to people that approach you and they're like, I don't even know what empathy is. I don't know how to access it. I don't know where to start with it. Because I've been meeting a lot of leaders recently that are like,
Yeah,
I don't know what vulnerability is and I don't know what
yeah,
empathy is and I'm not interested.
of course.
you know?
Of course they're not. They're like, vulnerability is weakness, right?
Yeah.
To that I say, well, do you know what humanity is? Like, I don't know. There's been something that's clicked inside of me, and maybe it is because like I have little ones, but I look at grown adults and I say, okay, what would their parents think of them? What would, where does the humanity lie in that person's decision making? What are those parts that transcend, race or politics or religion, like joy? Those kind of common human things. And I would say, what do you think is that? I would pose kind of that question back too, because if they can admit that there's a shared level of humanity, then I feel like we probably have a better jumping point to talk more about vulnerability. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm with you. And it opens the door so beautifully to exploring what that vulnerability means specifically to the leader, which is another thing, right? Because then
Yes.
we're not trying on
Yes.
empathy or we're not trying to be a
Right.
leader. We're exploring
Yeah.
who that individual is as a human leader.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you and I both know if you try it on and it's and you don't try it on appropriately, right? Or if it's not authentic to you, it's everyone can see right through that, right? Like I can
Yeah.
just cringe at the fact of leaders are like, I need to be empathetic. Hello, how are your children today? Like,
Yes.
are you
I
feeling
am feeling
sad? Like,
sad.
yeah. One teardrop finger
Like
down
one
your
tear.
cheek. Like, like I mean, bravo, you're giving it the college try. But I'm
Right.
I'm a huge believer, and I know you are too, of you need to know yourself first. You
Hmm.
cannot lead with empathy. You cannot lead. I mean, good leaders know themselves, and a level of strong self-awareness, at least from my point of view, is a must
Hmm.
for being able to be an empathetic and a daring leader, right?
Yeah, which is exactly why hiring a coach or a
Yes.
mentor or
Yes.
even working with a therapist directly, a consultant,
Hmm.
all of these are beautiful modalities. Pick one
Right.
and go
Yeah.
to town. You
Yeah,
know?
exactly. Build your team. I always say, like, it's like having the Avengers behind you, right? Like I've got my therapist, my coach, my acupuncturist, my
Mhm.
whoever needs to be on the team. I found, especially when juggling all the stuff with the kids early on, that if I didn't have that team supporting me, I would have lost myself a long time ago.
Mhm. And what do you say to people who come to you? Because look, it's a very normal conversation to say, number one, I
Yeah.
can't afford a team. Or
Yep.
number two, I don't even know where to start. What does having a team mean? Because for me,
Yeah.
culturally growing up, having a team was very, very privileged. Like,
Yes.
I think my parents still wonder what I do sometimes. They're like, what
Mine
does
do
she
too.
do in
Mine
the
do too.
world?
You're like, do you just pass out inspirational quotes all day? Yes, that's
Yeah.
what I do.
And my dad's like, how did you make a business out of this? Like,
Yeah.
literally,
Very
like,
carefully. No.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
No,
so
but
I totally get it. Like that this is a very confronting thing for people when we're just like, yeah, just build a
yeah.
team, because and not that you're saying that, but I
No, 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 I
encounter
get
that a
it.
lot in the world, right? With people.
Mhm.
And so what's the entry point for you there with people?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there was a time when I couldn't afford to build anything, right?
Mhm.
Like I couldn't
Mhm.
afford to have these team members there, but I think in that case I would look and say like kind of who are my key players, and I'm a big fan of quality over quantity, like who's in my circle? Who can I be vulnerable to that I don't have to pay, right? I think I'm going to look for that anyway.
Mhm. Mhm.
But who are the people who are doing things that I want to be doing, or who are the people who have seen me at my lowest and my highest, who actually know me? So when they're the ones who ask me, "How are you?" I know they actually want to know, right? So if I
Mhm.
can't afford to bring on the specialists, I want to make sure that the people who actually, give a shit about Michelle the person are in my realm. I think that's kind
Mhm.
of, if you don't have the money to bring it on that way, bring it on with the two people that you think are actually know you and see you for who you are.
Exactly. Yeah, and look for resources too. I always tell
Yes.
people,
Yes, of
you know,
course.
if I my commitment is if you talk to me about coaching and I'm not the one for you or I'm not in your price
Yeah.
point, let's go find you somebody who is,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's okay to ask for help from that realm too, because I think people
Yeah.
think like, oh, I can't afford it, so I'm just going to walk away versus no, actually ask, well, where could I
Yeah.
find these services? Do you have any
Yeah.
recommendation?
Or,
And just keep going.
podcasts, books,
Mm-hmm.
all of the information that's kind of at your fingertips. I mean, before, when I was a teenager and in my 20s, I didn't have a coach. Like there was none of that, but I read, authors like
Mm-hmm.
Jan Van Zant. Like I was reading in early 20s, and like,
Mm-hmm.
all of those kind of key personal development self-help books that I think, what was the book, 20 something female or quarter life crisis or whatever that book was. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
reading it being like, "Oh, I'm not the only one." Because I think anytime that you can evoke that or see yourself and somebody else going through adversity, then you're not crazy, you're not alone. You know, it's a human part of being human, and therefore you can keep going a little bit stronger. But that
Yeah.
could be a book. That could be, to your point, a lot of resources out there.
Or YouTube. I can't tell you the
Yeah,
amount of things I've
YouTube.
learned on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pull it
Yeah,
up.
right? I mean, just Google it, people. Like, yeah.
It's out
Yeah.
there for sure.
Hmm.
Well, what's your hope for the world moving forward here? I mean, you're a brilliant, beautiful leader yourself. So
Thank
what's
you.
your
Oh,
dream?
goodness. My dream. I have so many. You know, I just would like to see the personal brought more to the forefront for good, bad, whatever that may be. I think, the stuff that we're seeing in Ukraine around really humanizing it all, I think the minute we stop humanizing the pain, we lose it, right? We give ourselves an excuse to kind of detach from the humanity of it all and forget that we're all connected. So I think I'd like to see more of that, more of empathy, more of, all of those kinds of emotions, and more acceptance of it. And the fact that we can actually admit this stuff is hard, but it doesn't mean we can't do it. It just means maybe we need support, right? So I'd like to see us as a collective world do something like that. I don't really even know what that looks like
Yeah.
or how it gets accomplished, but for every time I I do a talk or a speaking engagement, I inevitably have somebody come up that says like, "Oh, I thought it was just me." And like that's at least my personal mission to kind of have somebody listening on the receiving end, even if it's one person that says, "Oh, I thought it was just me who was having those thoughts," or "I thought it was me who experienced that level of sadness." Like I think we need more conversations so people know it's not just them.
That's beautiful. Well,
Thanks.
and I guess the last question I'll ask you, I mean, you kind of answered it, but if you had a
Okay.
megaphone to say to the future, what's the one
Yeah.
headline that you would like scream into the future to disrupt it?
Just one, just one. Admit it
I know.
sucks. No.
Exactly.
Anything.
Get it together.
Get your shit together. No. I think it's just like, remember everyone's human for God's sakes and have compassion.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying let horrible things go unchecked. Like that's not what type of compassion I'm saying, but it's like little things like the person in the grocery store who's a complete ass to you. Maybe that's not about you. Maybe we should scream that from a megaphone that it's probably not about you.
It's not
Like maybe
about you.
that's something that needs to go out the megaphone. It's not your shit to own. That's what I'm going to do the headline of. It's not
All
your
right,
shit to
headline.
own,
It's
right?
not your shit to own.
That's officially it. It's not your
Or
shit to own
own your own
unless
shit.
it is. Unless it is.
There
But
you go.
self-awareness. Yeah.
These are all good. Oh my gosh. Michelle, thank you so much for being with us. You're a delight. You're such a joy in the world, a
Thank you.
leader, so resilient, a passionate mama
Thanks.
and heart. So thank you for loving the world so much that you continue to do what you do.
And thank you for having me. This is wonderful.
If this conversation sparks something for you, let it move through your week. Take it with you. Take on one small action to move the ball forward. And if you want to join our community of leaders who are daring to lead with courage and heart, you can find that at www.elenaarmijo.com or www.thec-suitecollective.com. I reserve a small number of complimentary 20-minute sessions for leaders who want clarity on what they need and insight into what is getting in the way. The practical next steps that create real movement and results in your leadership journey. So you can schedule a call through the link below. It's in the description. Like, subscribe. Thank you for listening, for showing up, and for doing the work of being human together.